Hey film fans, unlikable protagonists, unlikable characters. Of course, cinema history is rife with them. They're all over the place. And I think you could argue even more so in indie cinema, which, whether it's kind of adjacent to the mainstream or further out on the margins, has always been interested in investigating or exploring the kind of characters and narrative situations that don't fit so compactly into mainstream narrative cinema, where we expect characters to be well developed, firmly established from the get-go, and then as they meet conflicts and as they overcome them and as it builds to a climax, they learn and develop as characters so that by the end there's kind of a, satisfactory resolution. Whereas in indie cinema, they're more interested in characters who buck that trend, and that's one of the reasons indie cinema's indie, right? This is just as true in Mumblecore as in any other indie movement or any other indie era. So let's find out how the unlikable protagonist, the unlikable character, works in another one of the foundational texts of the Mumblecore movement era genre, as we examine the 2005 film The Puffy Chair on this episode of What Makes This Film Great. The Puffy Chair is a 2005 film that was written and directed by the Duplass Brothers, Mark and Jay. It also has cinematography by Jay Duplass, and it stars Mark as Josh. The editing of the film was done by a guy named Jay Doobie, and I think it's a very low budget film. Online, everywhere, it's listed as $15,000, so incredibly low budget. And by everything I've read and all the Duplass interviews that they've done, this was really like self-funded or funded by their parents, with cast and crew of friends and sort of willing participants. So I think, I couldn't find any information about production design and costume and that sort of stuff. I think they all just kind of pitched in and did it themselves in the spirit of indie filmmaking. It stars, as I said, Mark Duplass as Josh, who I guess we could call our protagonist. It also features Katie Aselton, fellow Mainer, represent, as Emily, Josh's girlfriend, longtime girlfriend. That's a very important part of the story. And Rhett Wilkins as Rhett, who is Josh's brother. The story is quite simple. Josh is traveling from New York City to Atlanta for his father's birthday. On the way, he's going to stop in Virginia to pick up the titular Puffy chair. This is a chair he's found and won in a bid on eBay, and it's a purple-ish, kind of mauve, puffy armchair that resembles one that their father had when they were kids. And he thinks this will be a cool present for his father. And he's going to drive down, pick up the chair, take it to his dad, and give it to him as a birthday present. And presumably his own appearance is also a birthday present. And that's the story. He decides early on to invite Emily, which was not part of the plan. And then he's going to stop and visit his brother Rhett. And that's just initially going to be a sort of half-day visit, but Rhett comes along as well. So what was a one-man road trip becomes a two-person road trip, becomes a three-person road trip. And the film's really about the events along the way. So it really is about the journey as much as it is about the destination. And that's the whole story. They get there and they celebrate the father's birthday, although events don't play out exactly as Josh had predicted at the beginning of the film when he looks at his map and decides, this is what I'm gonna do. The Duplass brothers had already made a few short films, a couple of which had played at Sundance in the early 2000s. The Puffy Chair is their first feature film, and they've talked about in interviews how they didn't really know, or they didn't feel confident about making a feature film. And so what they came up with, the idea they came up with was, we're really good at making 10 to 12 minute films. What if we make 10 of those strung together? Then we've got a feature film. And you can tell that that's what they've done because the film plays out as a series of set pieces, and each set piece develops into the next one. And it doesn't feel like 10, or maybe there's kind of 8 or 9 separate short films. It's one continuous narrative, but it's structured around these set pieces. So you have in New York, on the road, meeting the brother, on the road, getting the chair part 1, the cinema, a wedding, getting the chair part 2, dealing with the chair, the arrival in Atlanta, and then the end. And each of those is about 10 minutes long, and that's the film that we get. It's what happens within those set pieces that makes the film interesting, I think compellingly watchable, but also I think tricky, because while the characters are well-rounded, they are interesting, and there are moments in the film where, as an audience, we might find ourselves aligning with them, rooting for them, maybe just one, maybe 2 at a time. It changes in each of these set pieces. None of them are lovable. And they all make decisions that I would say could be considered off-putting to an audience. I've spent the last couple of days reading about the film, and one of the interesting things is its IMDb page. And I don't put a lot of stock in this in terms of determining the quality of a film, but it's sometimes interesting to read IMDb user comments, because they tend to be all praiseworthy. Go read The Shawshank Redemption, or quite critical. Someone has to really want to write a review to go on IMDb and write a review. And the Puffy chair is split, right down the middle. There are people who love it, love the character work, love the performances, love what was done in this $15,000 film. But the people who hate it, they really hate it. And it comes down repeatedly in their comments to the unlikable characters. I hate these people. That's fascinating to me, because I don't really like them either. But watching them and thinking about why I don't like them, what I wish they had done differently, engaging as a viewer with the film was an amazing experience for me. So I loved watching it, even as I was like, oh my God, dude. And I felt that way about all of them. So let's talk a little bit about how the film works, how it pulls you in, how it pushes you away, keeps you at arm's length, because I think that's the trick that it pulls off, and it pulls it off really well. All of this starts right at the beginning of the film, where we jump in with this handheld camera in this close-up conversation between Josh and Emily. And we're moving back and forth between them. And it feels very invasive. It feels very much like we're in this private moment, which is compounded by the fact that they speak in this kind of cutesy couple speak, which I found infuriating from the very beginning. Like, I'm an old dude, I'm not like in my 20s, and I still speak cutesy speak with my partner on occasion. I'm not against cutesy speak, but it's an interesting way to start the film because it is off-putting. So on the one hand, we're like right in close in these close-ups, which is very private, but this private moment we're experiencing, it's a choice on the part of the filmmakers and the performers to introduce us to the two leads in this kind of cutesy performance. It feels fake, not bad. And I think some of the comments that I talked about earlier confuse, annoying or frustrating characters with bad acting. And I think the acting here is really good because they have to act annoying, and they do it really well because it works.
But do you know how much you're gonna miss me?
Yes.
Do you?
Yes.
Do you really?
So much that I'm gonna die.
Really?
Maybe so.
Oh dear.
Mm-hmm.
You sure you don't want me to come? I know you have a plan, but I know that you love me too and you want to stay.
I know. I do. I want to stay. I want to do. Got some things to do.
Here we are with Josh and Emily, and they're eating chicken and being cutesy and having a conversation in which it becomes clear that Josh is leaving the next day, and this is their last night together for a while. So they want it to be special. Emily talks about how she brought her overnight bag, and they're gonna hang out, and they're jokey, and the cutesy voices are annoying, but it's also cute. They're a nice couple. And then Josh gets a phone call in the middle of their dinner, and this happens.
I mean, she's cool, dude. I was friends with her for a couple of years and stuff, so... Yeah, sure, man. Totally. What do you want to know about her? Okay. Oh, I see what this is. You need me to email her for you and say, like, this guy is fucking awesome and put in the good work 'cause he's a great booking agent and he does all the stuff. Dude, I'm your man. Dude, I'm gonna hook you up. You know why? Because you're a good guy, obviously, and yeah, I mean, if you, what do you want me to say? Basically, Eric McKee obviously has a huge penis.
I can see Emily being annoyed. It's their last night. They've already had a little chat about like being romantic, being lovey-dovey, staying the night together in their bed. And so I can see how it would be annoying that he would get this phone call. But her actions here are more than annoyed. This is someone who's either, you know, trapped in a hellish relationship and is finally responding like, you know, I've had all I can take and I can't take anymore, or she's overreacting. We're only a couple of minutes into the film, so we don't know which it is. All we know is that this is an extreme response to an annoying situation, but it sets the tone for their relationship. If you're watching this before she has her freak out, you might be in the position as an audience member where you're like, dude, hang up the phone, you're being kind of a dick. And the film wants you to feel that way. But then when she sweeps everything off the table and storms out, your allegiance is put into an interesting place because you were on her side. Like, you were annoyed with him, but now you're annoyed with her. And this is where the unlikability comes in from the beginning, I think. And it's more than the unlikability, though. It's the wavering. Because sometimes in the film, Emily's really sweet. She's really nice. She wears her emotions on her sleeve. She's heartfelt. She says what she thinks. She's an honest person. And she's wonderful. And there are times throughout the film where Josh kind of stands up for himself. He does what he thinks is the right thing to do. He's very sort of invested in that. He's also invested in this plan, this project to get this chair and get it to his dad, which is a kind of really wonderful and nice thing that he's trying to do. He also, once Rhett, his brother, comes into the picture, is invested in kind of keeping Rhett happy while at the same time telling him harsh brother truths. So they're doing good things in the film, but key decisions that they make are bad decisions driven by selfishness. And I think Emily's action here, Mark, he's the performer. Josh's actions are driven by selfishness, like, get off the phone, dude. But so are hers. And so throughout the film, our allegiances, our feelings about whether we like these characters or not are going to consistently shift as we're called upon to rethink who we think they are. Josh is a musician, and as the film unfolds, it will become clear that he's been playing in a band he loved apparently, and that band has recently broken up in the last year or so, and now he's got a job as a booking agent and he's unhappy about it. It's nice because he's still in the music industry, but he's frustrated that the dream didn't pay out. And this is one kind of subtle but key difference between the Puffy chair and Funny Haha. These people are at the end of their 20s, whereas the Funny Haha are at the end of college. So they're kind of 23, 24. These ones are kind of 27, 28. And they've had that intervening 4-5 year difference to sort of take the first stab at establishing themselves. And So Josh is in a place of failure, or feeling like a failure, let's say. At the same time, he's been in this relationship with Emily, as we discover, for quite a few years. And it's also reached a point where decisions have to be made. You know, they've done the dating as boyfriend and girlfriend, serious dating, as long as they can, until now we have to decide, you know, is this going to become even more serious, or has it run its course? And that sort of through line runs throughout the film. So Josh's first decision in the film is to invite Emily on the trip. And that's really nice. He does it in the cheesiest way possible. He shows up at her apartment the next morning after the storming out with his little boom box, trying to do a John Cusack from Say Anything. And it's, as my kid would say, so cringe. You know, by 2005, 2004, 2003, this moment, and I love Say Anything, and I love the original Moment, and I love Peter Gabriel and John Cusack and Ione Skye and all of it. But, you know, it's 15 years old at this point. It's already a cliche, you know. And so to put that in the film, again, it's a choice, and it's a choice that tells us something about Josh. And yeah, he's a musician, he's a music person, but also he lacks imagination, maybe, or he will go for the cheap gag over something maybe a little more heartfelt, or maybe he just thinks that's heartfelt and he's a little bit shallow. It works for Emily though. She's sold, and they go together, they get in the car and they start heading south. And their first stop is to meet Rhett, who is Josh's brother. And Rhett, as we learn throughout the film, is a groovy guy. He's a little bit hippie. He's in touch with his feelings in the universe. And we first come upon him filming lizards in a bush outside his house.
Is that him?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Bone? Bone. Sup, dog? What are you doing in the bushes, you fucking weirdo? Come here, man. Good to see you, man.
This is another moment that's played really nice and then kind of turned on its head later, because Emily and Rhett haven't met. There's a sort of girlfriend brother meet cute here, and then they go in and watch the video, and it's really nice. Rhett is kind of, I don't know, overly enamored with it, but it's all played really cutely, and Emily even suggests,
damn, dude, I gotta get him something too.
You should give him that. Give him a copy of the movie.
Oh, this thing?
Yeah. It's pretty amazing.
Interesting to see how he reacts, man. I think this is like a...
You don't think he'd dig it?
I think Mom would dig it. I know Mom would dig it.
I think Dad would dig it.
which is a really nice thing. Like, she recognizes that Rhett loves this video. She knows that it's the father's birthday's coming up. Why not? Rhett takes that and then makes a different decision.
I think it's me. I think it's me.
What's you?
I think I'm the gift. I think I need to reconnect with Dad, dude, just like the lizards, face to face. For whatever it's worth, dude, you guys seem to be on this road trip, and it seems to be about you guys connecting, and I respect that, and I honor it. But at the very same time, dude, I'd love to go with you.
Rhett is a really interesting character, and I'm going to come back to him a couple times because he frustrated the hell out of me. On the one hand, he's kind, he's gentle, he's open to experience, he's open to possibility. He has a character that I naturally am kind of inclined to connect with, because I like that sense that he has of openness. But like a lot of characters like that, and a lot of people like that, it blinds him to his own selfishness. His brother and his brother's girlfriend are on this journey together, And he just invites himself along. And his blindness and his inability to see that others do things differently is going to come back in one of the most frustrating scenes in the film later on. So they all hit the road. They're driving in a van because they're going to pick up the puffy chair later. And that night they pull into a motel in another one of the film's set pieces. And this one I absolutely love. And I love it for a couple of reasons. First of all, it's funny as hell, the whole thing. And it also gets turned on its head later on. And this is one of the things the film does really well, and I'll come back to that. But first, the motel. Josh decides he has figured out somehow, whether on the internet or by calling or whatever it is, that if only one person stays in the room, it's $10 cheaper. So in order to save that $10, he's gonna check in alone. He wants Emily and Rhett to hide in the van, and then once he's checked in, they can sneak into the room. Thousands of people have probably done this before. You know, it's an old ploy when you're on the road and you're running low on cash. Rhett, Mr. Open to the Universe, believes in honesty, and he has a hard time with this.
You gonna lie to the lady?
I'm gonna lie to her and get the motel for $10 cheaper, yeah.
What, you gonna lie to her?
Yeah, I'm gonna lie to her, yeah.
Why should you have that money and she shouldn't?
Because I work my ass off for it and I'm a booking agent who doesn't make shit. So unless you...
So we're already getting here, after Rhett has imposed himself on this trip, an undercurrent, and it mostly remains an undercurrent throughout the film, of these kind of ethical differences between the two brothers, and the way their egos push these ethical differences. And oftentimes Emily is left to be a witness to this, where she doesn't take sides, whether she agrees with one or the other. She will take sides in some of them. But here it's the brothers having this argument. They both kind of win. Josh is like, yeah, I'm gonna lie to her and I'm gonna save the $10. And Rhett's like, if that's what you're gonna do, I'm gonna sleep in the van. So Josh goes in, he books the room. The woman's suspicious from the beginning. She sees the van out there. She's like, there's no way this guy's alone. And then one of the funniest bits happens because Josh convinces Emily to wear his clothes and check into the room. And then he's gonna go in later. And I love that he's wearing tighty whities. And I love that there's all these scenes with him in his briefs, his tighty whities, especially when he finally makes his dash for the room.
I think that son of a bitch Harris is turning the heat, using your boy as firewood. And the hotter that fire gets,
Then we have a moment that starts nice, but where Emily again starts to impose her interpretation of the scene, her interpretation of the evening on to Josh. And this is going to grow throughout the rest of the film. Josh wants to go to sleep. It's been a long day. She wants to talk about the status of their relationship.
Okay.
What is it, baby? What's bothering you?
Nothing is bothering me. That's the point. God. Just trying to get a little schmoopy talk. The only person who said something nice to me today was Rhett.
Hey, baby.
He said it was beautiful.
We can schmoop, man. I can do the schmoopy thing. Look, you're beautiful.
Nice try.
You are beautiful.
But there's discussionness interruptus as there's a knock at the door.
Dude, Rhett,
Hello.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You told me one person was staying here, okay? Now I see 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
Now pack your stuff and get out.
Look, I really want to...
And they're busted. And he ends up having to pay $40 more than the original price. So, you know, trying to save the $10 is out the window. The whole sequence is great because it's played for comedy and it is funny, but it's also doing a really great job of establishing the key sort of fissures in these relationships that are going to crack open as this road trip continues. The next day they show up at the furniture warehouse where they're gonna pick up the puffy chair and they find this. And this is where the evening at the motel comes back in an interesting way, because when they go to the motel, Josh is, you know, completely unconcerned. You could say blasé even about lying to the woman to save some money. And when they get to pick up the chair, he's indignant that this man would have lied to him. He's like, I think we need to talk outside. Them's fighting words. And the guy's like, okay, dude. And so they go outside and Josh is like, and the guy's not gonna budge. He's like, you know, that's the chair. And Josh is just ripped, and he doesn't see the disconnect. And this is where, you know, we see his ego starting to emerge as what Josh cares about is Josh. You know, and in a lot of ways it seems like, and this is subtext in the film, this whole journey is Josh's effort to feel like he's accomplished something because his life is a failure. His band career is a failure. His relationship is borderline failing, as we're learning in this in the film. His relationship with his brother is actually not great, although they try to patch it up here and there. And so delivering this chair to his dad in this act of sort of son love and nostalgia for childhood is something he's determined to do no matter what. And that this man would lie to him is a personal affront to him, regardless of the fact that he lied to the motel clerk the night before. It seems like the man's not going to budge, and then Josh sinks to his lowest in the film, I think. He sends Emily and Rhett away, and he kind of hangs about the warehouse, and he runs into these two guys moving furniture. He finds out they're from Honduras. When he asks them if they work there and they say no, we don't see what happens next. We cut to them in the van, the three of them in the van, and Josh is telling them, it's all sorted. We're taking it to an overnight upholsterer and he's gonna pay for it. He gave me $300 to pay for it. It's sorted. The implication being that Josh blackmailed the guy. You know, the guy's got undocumented workers in his warehouse and Josh threatened to rat him out, which is despicable. It's absolutely despicable. Because regardless what's going to happen to the guy, you know, he's going to pay some fines. Those guys are going to get deported. And this doesn't even enter into Josh's framework. His idea is, I'm going to win. And this becomes an even more kind of driving force behind Josh's motivation for the rest of the film, like winning all the moments. Sometimes winning means using force, as he does here, or the threat of force. Sometimes it means going with the flow, but going with the flow in a way that is maybe the easy way. And this is where, like, I think from here on, for me, it was hard to appreciate Josh anymore. So even as Emily starts to make more demands on him about the relationship, and even as Rhett's behavior gets increasingly kind of flaky, and sometimes they did things to Josh where they're also in the wrong, it was hard for me to sympathize with him after this because it was such a dick move. I'm talking about all of these plot developments and maybe going into intricacies of plot a little bit more than I sometimes do, because it's in these set pieces where this question of the likability or unlikability of these characters comes out, and you kind of have to understand how they respond to each of these situations to see the position that the film puts you in as a viewer. Because their unlikability is not, like, Josh is not an asshole, Emily is not, you know, some kind of raging bitch, and Rhett is not sort of an egocentric, you know, one of those kind of hippy-dippy types that just absolutely doesn't believe any of his kind of karmic shtick. They are all trying to be good people, or what they think of as good people. They just fail a lot, and they fail because every time things get tense, or almost every time things get tense, they fall back into a position of thinking about themselves, thinking about their own security, thinking about their own victory. And this continues to cause them to make bad choices. even when it seems like they might be making a good choice. So, for example, once they have the Puffy chair at the upholsterer and they realize they have to stay a night in this town, which I believe is in Southern Virginia or Northern North Carolina. In any case, it's filmed in Millbridge, Maine. And they go to the movies, and at the movies, Rhett starts kind of skeezing on this single woman who's there by herself. And we're led to believe later on that Rhett has this kind of vibe that women pick up on. And they end up going off together. So whatever it is, it works. And Emily and Josh are forced to track him down, and they track him down in this house where he's with this woman, Amber. And it turns out that in the last few hours, since Josh and Emily have finished the film and gone looking for them, they've fallen in love and they're getting married. That happens. And it is lovely. Josh looks at the situation, he assesses the situation, and he's like, okay, let's do it. Emily, who's in the throes of wanting something more with Josh. Emily, as the film develops, it becomes clear that she has reached the end of boyfriend-girlfriend. She wants marriage. So for her, this marriage, this spontaneous romance is a thing of beauty. It's kind of moving, and Emily's definitely moved by it, but the fallout from this night is, you know, complete chaos and destruction for the rest of the film. Because Rhett, as Josh is gonna say...
What do you think's gonna happen to them?
I think it'll last about a week and Rhett will probably just go home.
Of course he's not the type of guy who's gonna come in and marry someone and stay with her for the rest of his life, as he pledges to do. And this throws Emily for a loop. She can't comprehend, first, that Rhett would do this, but more importantly, that Josh probably knew it all along. Josh went out to this house, finds out about the engagement, suggests the marriage, marries them, gets fully invested in this kind of, you know, intimate ceremony, all the while we find out later knowing that it really kind of means nothing to Rhett. And Rhett breaks it off for the pettiest of reasons.
She got really, really sad, man.
Emily is shattered because the facade of this relationship that she's been in for the last few years is disintegrating in front of her eyes. And she doesn't know where to go with it. She doesn't know what to do with it. And things are just going to get worse because when they go to pick up the chair, they find out that not only has the upholsterer not done the chair, he's not going to do the chair today, and he won't let them into the building. And Josh's response to this is, on the one hand, you know, he's determined not to be dissuaded from getting this chair to his father, but his behavior is petty and juvenile at the same time.
Talk to me that way. Don't even talk to me. Where is my fucking chair? What happened?
I haven't gotten to it yet.
That's totally unacceptable. Shut up. Do not talk to me. Shut up.
They get the chair, and I actually love that cut. There's quite a few nice cuts in this film. The editing is very efficient in terms of the way it pushes the narrative forward and also jumps over key moments. So for example, back at the first furniture shop when Mark finds out that these Hondurans are working there, we just cut to all of them in the van and we're led to fill in that gap on our own. The same thing happens here. And the film does that quite well. The editing's very good. But they get the chair, and the outcome here is very satisfying for Josh because he's got the chair, but now everyone in the van is upset because they all are starting to see who each other really is. Josh and Emily are judging Rhett for the ridiculousness of the wedding and how quickly he left Amber the next day. In particular, Emily, who hasn't been exposed to Rhett's kind of nonsense before. Emily and Rhett are judging Josh for the way he handled the chair. Josh specifically is upset with Emily because he thinks she's pushing him too hard about the relationship. So now what began as, come with me, my love, and we'll take a road trip and it's going to be great, is three people sitting in a van, not hating each other, but sad and uncomfortable. Of course, to Rhett, who's, you know, a karmic guru and open to the universe, it's not about the egos. It's not about the lying. It's not about the way that they're all driven by their own self-interest. It's about the chair.
We need to talk about this. This van is contaminated, and I know what it is. It's this goddamn chair. We gotta work this out now, or it's gonna get nasty.
This leads to my least favorite film in the scene, and I say that knowing full well that it's my own personal response. It's a great scene in terms of narrative development, character development, what character development there is. Certainly arises organically out of the characters. Also, for a film like this, it's very low budget, it's one of the few, I guess you could say, sort of starkly beautiful scenes in the film, but it frustrates me to no end. And that is when they're a day away from the father's home, and Rhett, hating the chair, blaming the chair for all this negativity, takes it on himself to rectify the situation. Scenes like this disturb me to no end because what you have here with Rhett, and it's similar to Josh, and you can see how even though these two men are very different in their outlook on life, they're very similar in the way they're rooted in their own kind of self-interest and ego. Rhett is right that there are things going on. There's negative energy, man, that these three people need to sit down and have a chat, maybe as a troika, or maybe, you know, Josh and Emily need to work their stuff out. Rhett and Josh need to work their stuff out. This big dramatic gesture is not it. This is like the one thing Josh has going for him. And as I've mentioned throughout this video, it is a replacement for his sense of accomplishment in life. But still, it's a nice gesture, and he has worked hard to accomplish it. And he has, even though he's kind of made the wrong decisions or responded violently or selfishly, certainly with the Hondurans, he made a horrible decision, I believe. He's about to achieve this thing that's going to make him feel good, and presumably going to make his dad and his mom feel good as well. And Rhett robs him of that opportunity based on his own ego, his own reading of the situation, that this dramatic gesture is what needs to be done so that I can feel good. I, Rhett, can feel good. He's also probably reeling from the dressing down he got from Emily about ending the marriage with Amber and so on. So he's acting out of his own selfishness. And that alone is enough to kind of get me. But it's that Josh then apologizes. And in doing so, like, Josh has a lot to apologize for in this film, don't get me wrong. But in apologizing to Rhett about getting angry, he tackles Rhett, as we saw, but in apologizing to him, the film seems to me, and if I'm misreading this, let me know, but it seems to me to be saying that in the end, Josh is the one in the wrong here. I don't know if you guys saw The Bear, this TV show, and it was great. I loved it. It was fantastic. But at the end, when he apologizes to the sous chef and to the pastry chef, and they don't apologize back, they just acknowledge his apology, that frustrated me in a similar way, because he was wrong. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go check out this show, The Bear. It is fantastic. It's on, I think in the States, it's on Hulu. Here, where I am in Ireland, it's on Disney+. You know, it's an intense restaurant sort of dramedy. And it's really good, really well acted, filmed, everything about it. It's great. But it's in a small restaurant, tensions are high, and throughout the series, the sous chef in particular goads the main character. I'm forgetting their names right now, but she's not trying to, but he continually tells her, I can't give you what you want. I can't do what you want. And that doesn't mean that what she wants is wrong or bad, but she's kind of inserted herself in this situation. She shows up and says, I want to work with you. She pushes things to get done in her way, and he pushes back. It's his restaurant, and eventually blows up at her for something that she's done. And she gets angry at him, and he apologizes. And this frustrates me because anger is valid. And Josh's anger here is valid. Josh may be a prick. He certainly made some bad decisions. He certainly treated Emily poorly. Maybe she's pushed him, and he's treated her, you know, with some anger from being pushed. But the decision he makes how to express that anger is bad. The decision he makes to tackle his brother is bad. But the fact alone that he's angry over this sort of destruction of his last remaining dream, that's a valid feeling. And I feel like there's no recognition of that. And that's okay. I'm not criticizing the film for that. I'm just saying that this is, at this point, I no longer have it for any of these characters. I've lost it for them. And what I'm really curious about is who the hell are their parents? And what a shock when their parents turn out to be wonderful. And it gets you thinking, like, played by the Duplass parents, they're wonderful. How much did they overindulge these boys growing up? How much were they told, like, you can do whatever you want, son? I don't know. I'm talking here about the fictional world, not the real world of the Duplass brothers. Maybe it's the same. I haven't got a clue. And that's what I find fascinating about the film, is that I watch this, and I watch this chair on fire, and I watch the brothers tussle, and I watch the fallout, and I'm fully fascinated and engrossed. It's not putting me off the film. It's actually drawing me into the film even more, because I'm not enamored with these characters. I'm kind of horrified, slowly fascinated and horrified by them. Probably a little bit of my own sort of reflection on my 20s as well, and some of the decisions I maybe could have made better. I don't know. But it's hard to watch, and it's hard to watch in a different way from Funny Ha Ha, because I think in Funny Ha Ha there is a tentative exploration of these characters because they're just out of college, and yes, they make some bad decisions, and yes, they have some ego things going on, but it's that like first step into adulthood or the adult world where, as I said in my video for that, they haven't learned yet how to be the kind of people that you need to be adults, whereas I feel like these characters at the tail end of their 20s should have and still haven't, and that is what makes it frustrating, but again, for me, eminently watchable. I won't discuss the final scene, but I think it's interesting to compare the final scene of this with Funny Ha Ha, because this film ends on a note of dashed hope and maybe cynicism, whereas Funny Ha Ha ends on a note of potential and maybe even hopefulness. And they're two very similar ending scenes in a lot of ways, and both of them involve these couples that probably shouldn't be together, and that know they probably shouldn't be together, but are dancing around this a little bit. And somehow, I don't know if Funny Ha Ha earns its hopefulness, but it works for me there. This film, The Puffy Chair, definitely earns its cynicism, and it still works for me. And it's a sad and kind of tragic ending, but it feels right. So in that sense, The Puffy Chair really sticks the landing, and it's worth watching if you're into low budge, if you're into indie, and if you can handle this kind of characterization that I'm talking about. And I hope it didn't sound incredibly dire, because they're not bad, they're not evil, they're just misguided, and that leads them to make bad decisions, and you can see them coming. And it's driven by their egos. It's not even they're smart, they theoretically should know better. So you can see that it's like the selfishness that's getting in the way. And that, I think, is what draws me to it, because you're watching people who should know better, who could know better, who presumably do know better, and yet they're still trapped in their cycles of kind of self-involvement. And that's always going to be fascinating for me to watch anyway. Thanks for watching, everybody. This is the second film in my series on Mumblecore. I'm going to do a few more, at least 3, and I'm really liking it. Like I said in the Funny Haha video, most of the time when I do these series, I've seen 60 to 80% of the films, and I throw in a couple more so I can kind of expand my own viewing. But I've never seen a Mumblecore film. I've seen tons of indie films. I've seen tons of low-budget film, but this particular kind of era of indie is new to me, and so far I'm really enjoying it, even though it's not always easy. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with a friend. Let me know what you think. I have a couple more Mumblecore films lined up, but if there's one you'd like me to look at, I'm open to sort of changing my direction, so let me know in the comments. And I'll see you again soon with another video. Until then, you know what to do. Keep watching movies.